You guys ready?
Yes.
On Passive Milo show is here today. You don't want to miss a single word they said. Bringing you founders from a near and far. Listen as they tell you now just who they are. Listen to their stories and how they tell. In just 3 minutes how they're doing well. Telling us what it's all about today. And how they're loving that on passive way on passive. It's a here today on passive. There's just no better way to listen to the On Passive Milo show. So then you can be the very first to know on passive. It's a here today. On Passive Milo show is coming your way Saturday on passive. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Joyce E. Hicks, take it away.
Yes, Passive. Great, Milo. Passive. The Passive show is coming your way. I just love your voice. I love the song. I love you. I love everything about this. So today is Saturday, November 19th. And I just like to say welcome to the On Passive Milo show. I am super excited to be here. You know what? I almost got to meet Milo almost a year ago. He was in Michigan and the weather just would not permit for us to meet, but we're going to meet really soon, Milo. So I'm really excited about that. I would just like to welcome you all here, and I am humbled to be the host today. And I'm excited to be co-hosting with the lovely Lynn Nakamoto. So Lynn, thank you so much. And I just like to say thank you guys for all the brand ambassadors for showing up, for being here, because it would not be a show without you. So we just appreciate you so much. We love you. We love your energy. We love your voice and your presence just being here. So it's just great to be here. I'd also like to thank Mr. John Barilla. He is the one and only. Should I say, thank you so much for being here, for keeping everything under control, for just being present. We really appreciate everything you do. It's just so important. So, but I would also like to say, Lynn, would you like to have a few words and just to introduce yourself? And well, everyone knows you, but there may be some that.
Yeah, so I'm glad to be here. I mean, the topic today is such a compelling one, and I think that affects so many of us. I'm pretty sure all of us here have been touched by cancer in one way or another. And Milo's story is very heart-wrenching, but also poignant, and so I'm really looking forward to all of you benefiting from his story as well as all of your stories. I know a lot of you are going to be sharing, so I'm really excited about this topic, and I'm very hopeful that with On Passive and Noblesse, etc., we can really, really impact this issue, this worldwide issue that plagues us. Thank you. I'm so glad all of you are here. Be sure to share this webinar link with those that you think can benefit from this show. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lynn. It's always great to be on with you. And yes, this topic is really dear to my heart as well. And I'll talk about that a little later. But John, would you like to have words? And then you can also thank your people and tell who's helping you out would be great. Up, you're muted.
There we go. You're speaking to me?
Yes.
Yes. Well, I really don't. We don't do that anymore. I don't have anybody to thank because we don't really have the guardians anymore.
Okay.
But anyway, I would like to say something. Folks, make sure you check your, I don't even know if I should call it back office now, because we're not, our On Passive ecosystem.
Yes.
The pop-up that comes up when you log in right now is it's about deleting. They're going to delete the beta OMail that we've been using, and you have less than 24 hours to, if you have anything important data or emails that you would want to save or anything like that in your beta OMail that you may have been using, that you have less than 24 hours to save that or get rid of it, because they're going to wipe it all out. very, very soon, less than 24, when 24 hours is up, they're going to be doing that. So you can look at the pop-up. I just wanted to make that announcement for everybody. So go and look, because that's important. And other than that, I have a little something to say also about our topic today, but I'll wait until it's my turn later on. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, John. Yes, everything is happening so fast, and we are just really excited about where we are, the time that things are happening. You know, just today with that, just to kind of segue into that, you know, with everything that's happening, there's so much going on, and Milo has picked an awesome topic. Even though this is a mastermind, this is a very, you know, it's very dear to our heart. So we're going to just you know, let Milo talk and share his story. And I know everyone has a story that cancer has touched all of us in some type of a way. So, you know, be ready to tell your story, be ready to just excuse me, speak afterwards. And I'm not going to continue on, but you know, I'm going to introduce the one and only, the awesome Mr. Milo Davis. Take it over, Milo, and just give us your story. Thank you so much.
Hey, thank you, Joyce. Thank you, Joyce. And you know, I'm coming up there here in a couple of days. Who knows? Maybe I'll get over and get to meet you in person there, you know, because it's not that far. But oh man, it's so good to be here and to have all of you here, man. And I know I've told my story several times, but maybe there's someone that hasn't told it. And so I was thinking, you know, I was out driving the other night, and I always kind of tell my story or whatever, a little bit of it, you know, depending on what people want to hear. But I was telling some things and some memories that I have that are just incredible, you know. But I just kind of want to do a quick overview of my whole life. As you all know, I am the most blessed guy in the world. I don't think there's anyone that's been more blessed than me. Yeah, I've had some things go up and down, but through it all, man, I have been blessed. And I tell you what, I have learned from everything. But I'd just like to go back to, how did I meet my wife? My wife's mother was my babysitter, believe it or not. So whenever my dad would go out of town, he was a minister, their family would come over and they would stay with us boys, and they'd be our babysitter. And so we did not like each other. It was, we just didn't care for each other at all. We did not hit it off when we were younger. And I remember she went away. She went downstate. Her parents went downstate. Her dad was the one, he was one of the 5 crane operators that built the Mackinac Bridge. So she was born right there when he was building the bridge in 1957. And anyway, they went down, and I don't know, it's probably 13 or 14. And they went down, and I like to say she come back, she was about 16. And oh my God, she had all the bumps in the right place, and everything was just perfect on her, you know. And I said, man, I gotta have her, you know. And so I went after it, and you know, and we become very good friends. And it wasn't long when I graduated from school, we got married. I got married very early, and at the age of 19, I was just barely 19 when we had our first daughter. And I was done by the time I think I was 21 or 22. I said, us 4 and no more, you know. So I have 2 daughters, beautiful daughters from the marriage. I have 3 grandchildren. I have 2. One of my daughters has 2, an 18-year-old son, a grandson, and a 16-year-old granddaughter. And my other daughter has a 10-year-old. You know what? And I forgot to start my clock, so I better do that because I'll run over time otherwise. Anyway. So when I say I'm incredibly blessed, you can see why. I've got the best family. My daughters love me. My grandchildren love me. And I'm a blessed man, just very blessed. But in 2006, let's go to 2006. We had planned to go to Dominican Republic. So we went to the Dominican Republic with some friends, and we would do this quite a bit. I would take my builder buddies, and we would go to, you know, Mexico, Dominican, or something like that. And so we did this one year. Well, I didn't realize that she was back planning some stuff, you know. And so 2006, we go to Dominican Republic, and I remember I was downstairs. We were down at kind of a little walk-up bar, and I noticed my friend had a boom box with him, and I'm like, what you got that for, Steve? And he said, I don't know, I just thinking I might need it tonight or something. And I said, well, here we are again, waiting on the women, you know, because we was always waiting on the women. And so all of a sudden, he starts some music playing that was like wedding music. And I look, and here comes Peggy down the stairs in her wedding dress that she wore 30 years earlier. Now, she didn't ask me to wear my suit because I probably couldn't even got it. I'm not sure. The only thing I could have probably wore was my tie and my socks. That's probably the only thing that I could have wore from back then if I even had them. But here she comes. I mean, it's just as thin as ever, you know, and looking good. And she walks down this winding stairs, and all of a sudden, you know, 30 years, and she springs this on me, a surprise. And my friend, you know, he renewed the vows, and we just had a wonderful time, and we got pictures on the beach, and just a wonderful time. That was 30 years of marriage. That was in 2006. Peggy was never sick in her whole life, never sick. She never even hardly took an aspirin. She always ate the right stuff. She exercised. She was always, you know, just in shape, perfect shape. Not like me, the guy that eats pizza and hamburgers and everything else, you know, and not in perfect shape. But here's Peggy in perfect shape. In 2008, she started feeling tired, and so they were giving her some B12s and B12 shots. And so I remember she went in to get a B12 shot, and they said, "Hey, Peggy," said, "can you come to the doctor? We want to see you." And it was a cancer doctor, you know, and I'm like, why are they having you see a cancer doctor? And remember, my life was in the fast lane because I was a salesman, and everything was boom, 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 boom. And man, don't be late and do this. And that's the way I always went. You know, I went hard. I went fast. That was just me. You know, I never could slow down, it didn't seem. And so I remember I was headed to that day that she had to go in, which was the 13th. I was supposed to be getting on a plane. I already had tickets to Orlando for the Home Builders Show, International Home Building Show. Now, I went to this all the time, but it was with a brand new company. I'd signed on with a corporation. I had the CEO. He was going with me, a bunch of builders, and Peggy always went with me. The thing was, Peggy went with me because all the builders' wives loved to go with us, and we just always made it like family time, fun time. Well, this was on February 13th, 2008. And I remember I said, why do we have to, you know, why are they got to see you, you know, this cancer doctor? She said, I don't know. And I think she was kind of hiding some stuff from me, but she said, I don't know. She said, they want to see me. I said, all right. And she said, the girls want to go. I said, no. I said, why would we take the girls with us? We're going to be leaving to go to that thing. We don't need the girls. She said, Marlon. She called me Marlon, not Milo. She said, Marlon, they want to go, and they can go if they want to. I said, all right. So then I got to thinking, well, what if it is something bad? So one of my daughters is very emotional, kind of like her daughter. The other one's strong as a rock, kind of like me, you know. And I remember I told Marla, I said, look, if the news is bad or something, you take care of Jessica. You help take care of Jessica, and I'll take care of Mom, you know. And she said, all right. And so we go in, and the doctor said, well, Peggy says, I'm sure it's probably nothing big. He says, but we need to recheck your white blood counts. He said, because he said they were really elevated. And he said, so we want to check them, you know. And so he said, if it's fine, you know, it could have just been a misread or something. So that's probably, I'm assuming that's what it is. But if it's not, then it's not good. It's the C word, you know. He didn't say cancer. He said the C word. So he walked out, and it was, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes. We was laughing and cutting up, and he come back in, and he had this serious look on his face. And I'll never forget this. And I hope none of you ever have to go through it. None of you ever have to go through it. I remember he closed that door, and that door looked like it was 20 foot tall and 10 foot wide. And as he closed the door and the door went click, and he looked at us and he looked at Peg and he said, Peg, he said, I'm glad to see you have some support because you're going to need it over the next few months and years. He said, your blood counts are not good. He says, your white blood counts are way elevated, and says, it's leukemia. And he says, so we need to get you in right away. And I remember looking at the doctor and I said, well, hold on, doc. I said, we're not going to take just your word for it. I mean, I want to get a second opinion. I said, we're headed to Orlando tomorrow, you know, or today. It was that day. I said, we're headed to the airport to Orlando. We're flying out to later today to go to Orlando. And he goes, Mr. Davis, he says, I don't think you understand. He said, if you take her to Orlando, you will not be coming back with her. I can promise you that. He says that this is, and if you need a second opinion, he said, there's all kinds of hospitals that she can go to and get a second opinion. But this is something that has to be dealt with right away. So after he made me realize how serious it was, we got a hold of it. We couldn't hardly get into a hospital. They were telling us that it was going to be a couple weeks. And he said, no, he said, you can't wait that long. He said, even though I'm really good at what I do, he says, one person cannot take care of this because this type of cancer needs 24-hour watch over. He said, so you need to go to a school hospital, like, you know, one of them in Chicago or Michigan University or something. And so we tried Michigan University and couldn't get in. It's probably a good thing. That was almost 200 miles away. But over in Chicago, which was only 100 miles away, he happened to go to a school called Rush Hospital, one of the finest hospitals in the world. And he was able to call a doctor and get her in that next day. So I remember getting up the next morning, you know, and going to the hospital, and you know, things just go wrong, right? So I go out and I start my car. It was cold, it was snowing, it was February 14th, Valentine's Day 2008. Start my car, and guess what? I locked the keys in the car and I had no other spare. And so we had to wait for AAA to come and unlock the car for us, you know. And so they come and they unlock the car, and so we got on our way. And I'll never forget driving there. And this is the way my mind thought. I'm telling you my heart right now, how I felt. I'm going down the road and I remember looking over at people, glancing over, and it was snowing and stuff, and people would be passing by and some of them would smile, and I would think, hey, if you only knew, my wife has cancer, you know. And all the way up there, that was so heavy on my heart, man. What am I going to do? My wife's got cancer, you know. My wife's got cancer. This is terrible, you know, to go through this. I remember getting up to the hospital. We got up to the hospital and the girls was with me. And I remember they got cut off by some people in Chicago. If you've ever been to Chicago, they're kind of rude, you know, they cut you off, you know, and it was terrible. And so we finally got to where we were going, parked in the parking garage. I remember going in the hospital, and here I am with my wife and my two daughters, knowing that my wife had cancer. What's going to happen? And I remember walking down that long hallway, and I remember seeing people, and they would smile and say hi. And in my mind, I said hi, but I was thinking, man, if you only knew, my wife has cancer. It was all about, you know, me and my wife, and she had cancer, you know. And I remember walking on down, and of course we had to go to this big cancer center where all the cancer patients were waiting to be seen. And we walked in, and people were laughing and joking, and I thought, man, you guys only knew my wife has cancer. And all of a sudden, man, it was like someone hit me upside the head with a 2x4 and said, look, dummy, all of these people do too. You know, people were sitting there with no hair, and they had their hats on, and they were laughing and enjoying life. And I thought, man, my wife's got cancer. And then all of a sudden, it's like, guess what? all these people do too. That was a big turning point in my life. It's like you join a association that you don't even want to join, but you're there because you were the same way, you know. And I remember as time went on, of course, you know, I realized that it wasn't about me and it wasn't about the cancer. You know, there was a lot of people with this that I didn't know, you know, before. I thought it was just me, kind of, you know, that you know, it was all about me and my wife. And so anyway, she ended up going in for, you know, they put her in the hospital right away that day, and started immediately on her because I know more now about leukemia than I ever wanted to know, but I didn't realize that leukemia, 30 days after they know you have it, or 30 days from the time you have it, the white blood cells will take over, and if it's nothing's done about it, you'll die, because you can't live, because it takes over all your blood and it just thickens the blood and stuff. And so anyway, they put her through chemo, you know, and it was so hard on her. I mean, you know, she was she was struggling with some stuff, and I remember, you know, it was hard for her to eat and different things, and she went through this whole chemo, and we thought that, you know, that it was over, that it was done, and then all of a sudden we find out that it's not, that the chemo they gave her didn't even affect her kind of chemo, because she had her kind of leukemia. She had a leukemia that was called 1621, and she was only the 19th person in the world to have it. And so they re-changed their diagnosis and said, okay, you got 10 days to 10 months to live. That was the thing, and said, there's been, it's mostly all Japanese teenagers that have this, and all of them had died in 10 days or less. There was one lady, 33 years old, that was from Spain. She died in 10 days or less. And there was one guy from Detroit. He was 71 years old, and he had a stem cell transplant, and he had lived for 10 months. So they said, what do you want to do? Hello, we're going to go for the stem cell transplant. So her brother was a perfect match, come in, but she had to go through a whole new set of chemo. She went all the way down to 65 pounds. And I remember one day she just shook violently, and I thought she was dying. You know, I run out and got a nurse and stuff, and the headboard was banging on the thing, and they put this cover over, the heating cover or whatever. And later on, they told me that there's no way they thought she would ever make it through it. Well, she did. She did, and she was a tough fighter, and she was so inspirational to everyone who knew her. And anyway, she ends up getting out in 2008, late 2008. She gets out. She becomes the spokesperson for American Cancer Society. You know, they have her on TV, they have her in all the newspapers, and she's just inspiring people all through the world about what she went through and the way her attitude was towards it. You know, she said, you know what, I don't know why I got it. She says, but I know one thing, I'm going to live through it. And she says, I'm going to live as long as I can, and I'm going to fight, you know. And that's, you know, I'm not mad that I got it. I just want to do whatever. And so she lived her whole life like this, and I'm running out of time. But anyway, in 2010, I remember this was one of the biggest moments in my life. I remember we went back in, and they said, Peggy, Dr. John said, Peggy, he said, the cancer's back, and it's bad, you know. And she had been saying, I'm not going to do anything else, not going to do anything. And so that happened, and so she wasn't going to do anything, and so she looked at him. I'll never forget this. And she looked at him and kind of laughed, and she says, because he had told her 10 days to 10 weeks, and this is 2 years later. She says, so doc, she says, how long I got to live this time? And I just put my head down. I'm thinking, Peg, geez, you know, and she laughs about it. And Dr. John says, Peggy, he said, I'm so sorry. He says, I don't know. He said, I can't tell you. He said, I can tell you this, because we had been in a week earlier and come back. He said, I can tell you this. that without treatment, he says, I don't think you'll be here Friday. This was on a Monday. And I remember her mouth dropping open because the white cells had jumped up so high, and he says, I don't think you'll be here Monday. And she says, so what if I take the treatment? He said, well, I don't have a crystal ball, but I would like to think you'd get at least 6 months out of it. And she said, if I tell you to stop, would you stop? He says, yeah, absolutely. She said, okay, let's go ahead and do it. So we walked out of the room that day. Now, this was her attitude. We walked out of the room and we start down that long hall. And I'm upset. I mean, I got maybe 6 months to be with Peg, right? She was a very animated woman, and she was just the life of every party, and she bounced around like a kid, and she hit me upside my arm and she says, hey, big boy, she says, I got 6 months to live. How long you got? I said, Peg, that's not fair. I said, why would you say something like that? That's not funny. And she kind of laughed and she hits me again. She says, I said, I got 6 months to live. How long you got? I said, Peg, I have no idea. No one told me. She said, exactly. She said, can we just live our life to the fullest and forget about all this junk? I said, absolutely, Peg. I said, whatever you want to do, if I can make it happen, we will make it happen. So long story short, the next 3 years or whatever, let's say it was 2010, she died at the end of 2012. The next 2 years, we went to Mexico, we went to Dominican again, and all because she refused to let something control her life. She lived her life to the fullest, and even up to the very last day when it was her dad's birthday, and that was so important that she make her dad's 80th birthday. She cooked chili. She had 61 people over at the house. We had a big house, and we were singers, so we would go downstairs and sing. And I remember that night, I tried to get her to let me make the chili or buy the chili. She says, are you kidding me? She says, my dad likes my chili and he's getting my chili. I said, okay. And so that's what she did. We went downstairs to sing. I asked, I said, will you come up and sing Just You and I, which we had sang for years at weddings and stuff. And she goes, oh, honey, she says, I don't really feel like it. First time in like 40 years she'd ever refused to sing with me. And so I said, oh, no problem. And someone in the back of the crowd yelled out and says, hey, could you sing God on the Mountain? And she said, absolutely. And she went right up there. And I mean, she nailed it just like she always did. She nailed it. I didn't know that would be the last time I would hear her sing. But it was awesome. But she passed away, and she had laid out her whole service and everything about it. It was remarkable. And yeah, I had some problems at first about, hey, here I am. I'm going to enjoy all the fruits of our labor. We had planned on retiring. We planned on doing this. We planned on doing that. She didn't get to do it. I got to do it all, but then after I got over that and realized, hey, I had nothing to do with it, and moved forward. Just the way she lived, the way she talked about, at the end, she says, hey, you go have fun. You make sure you have fun. And she says, you enjoy life. And so I tell people now, I say, I am enjoying life and I am having fun. And I'm not sure she wanted me to have this much fun, but but anyway, I am, but not really. She did. She was an incredible person. But cancer affects everybody. It affected our family, affected everyone. Now, because I'm about out of time, I am all the time. But just want to say, so when OnPassive come about, my thing was, hey, I can help other people. I know what it was like to have to decide, do I pay the mortgage or do I pay for the medicine? I know what that is. Her bills were over 2.7 million in the 5 years. And I don't care. Yeah, we were doing well in life. We had pretty much a tiger by the tail, everyone thought, and we did too, But when cancer comes a knocking, man, I don't care who you are, it's bad financially. It can strap anyone. And the thing with OnPassive that I see that I want to do is I want to start this project called Cancer that can help people. Now, the beautiful thing about it is anyone involved with cancer can buy a position under this. And as they buy position, it helps everyone in the thing, and it just grows. It's a beautiful thing, and even myself, I'll put some spots in, and then I'll put some spots down below, and it's just going to help everyone grow, and so that people don't have to make sometimes those hard decisions, that it'll be easier for them, that you can go ahead and you can relax, not knowing, and when you can't hardly work. I'm telling you, it was hard for me to work. I was so blessed that they would send me my prints up. I would do them. I sold lumber, but if I didn't get them done, it wasn't that big a thing. They would do them. But I'll tell you what, all of my contractors, they bought. I think my sales increased because they wanted to help me out from what I seen. So, like I said, I've been so blessed in my life, and this is a way that I'll be able to give back and help people. And I like to say a lot of times, we're as one string, we're not very strong. We can be broken. But when we take those strings and we wrap them around and around and around, and everyone starts wrapping them bigger, and you get that thing starts getting bigger and bigger, those kind of ropes or those kind of things will hold up bridges. They'll hold up anything because they can't be broken because of all the things. That's what I want to see happen with this cancer project, as more and more people that have been affected with it. And the thing is, you can buy a spot, and guess what? You give one time, and you're blessing someone else, but it's blessing you. Or you can take that money that comes in. What I'd like to see is as people take that money that comes in and bless other people, and just keep bringing in people that maybe have cancer, or even if they want to bring in their own spot, it will bring in more through commissions and stuff. So anyway, I got to quit because it's time. It's 20. I'm at 23 minutes. I'm turning it back to you, Joyce, before I keep going.
Milo, wow, your story is incredible. And like you said, cancer has affected so many lives, and your wife sounds like a very incredible, just wonderful woman that, she was a fighter. She was strong. You are a strong man. I've experienced what you've gone through. My husband is a survivor, but his story is he was diagnosed with cancer, and I really can relate to what you're saying. But it's like when you're in that place, it's very difficult. But when I listen to your story, it's like you handled it. That God gave you the heart and the strength to be there and to hold your wife up and to hold your family, and no matter how hard it was for you. And when she said to you, how long do you have? And let's just live this time. Let's live in this moment. And that's just so beautiful. Your story is wonderful. It's touching, and it is so encouraging as well. I just had to fight back, the tears, because and the tears were tears of sadness, but yet tears of joy, because God allowed you guys to be together. And I know you want a lifetime together. Peggy sounds like an awesome woman. And thank you for sharing your story. I know so many people can relate to that, and we'll be able to, just to speak on that as well. And so much needed for the time that we're in right now. And like you say, now here comes OnPassive to come along, and we'll be able to do so much to help so many people. What a blessing, what a blessing. And, I just want to say this real quick, that my husband was diagnosed back in 2009 with a very rare cancer. Only like 100,000 people would get it. And the doctors, same thing you're saying, when the doctors came in, he was in pain and didn't know what it was. And we went to the doctor, and the doctor came and that door closed. And like you say, it's at the longest and the heaviest door ever. And, we got the news and went through so many things in treatment. But when he got the news, it was a point of where our faith was there, and people were sad, they were crying and all these things, but we chose to be on a whole nother level of experience and say, the negativity, we love your sympathy, your empathy, and your support. But if you come in this room, you can cry, but you have to do it outside. And when you come in this room, we only want positive vibes. We only want the energy. And we had to do that in order for us to survive and to make it. And so, with the help of God, and like you say, the treatment, it's astronomical. His treatments we had insurance, but it was like $10,000 a month for treatment. And, and chemo and all the normal things for cancer wouldn't work for the cancer that he had. So we ended up doing another, he had to get an injection. It was $10,000 a month. But one day, 3 years in, and we were praying, and God spoke to him and says, I want you to stop this treatment. And I says, whatever you say, we have faith to believe. And he stopped the treatment, and you know what? And God has blessed him. So, he's a survivor, and just so thankful for that. But I know everybody has, Milo, your story is so touching, and it's just so much needed for right now. And I know that other people have stories, and I see some hands up here, and we just like you to take some time and to speak about, speak from your heart. Milo, thank you for speaking from your heart, first of all.
Got one other thing to say, Joyce. Yeah, you
Okay.
brought up a good point, about the negativity and stuff like that. And when I was in the hospital with Peggy, we were in the hospital, I don't know, for 4 months, I think, straight. And, it gets lonely up there, and I never left her side. One time I went down to get a sandwich across the street. Otherwise, I was always in the hospital. I might run down, or I would run up, and I would play for cancer patients and sing, but I was always right there close by. But the thing is when you're going through this, and I know that people love you, and I know that people want to know. And we were Southern gospel music. We had sang for 36 years, so we had fans all over. And they would call, and I loved every one of them. I appreciated it, but there's only so much you can take. You can hear of that. And I started a thing called Care Pages, the most wonderful thing in my life that really, honestly saved my sanity. Because when people would call up and ask me, it wasn't that I didn't want to tell them, but after you tell so many and you tell it over and over, it's like I can't keep up with who I told what and this and that. And I'll never forget my sister, who I love. I mean, me and my sister are like this. And she called me up. She said, "How is my girl doing, Peggy?" And I said, "Well, did you read the Care Pages?" She says, "No. And I'm not reading the Care Pages." She says, "Because I'm your brother, or I'm your sister, and I can call you and talk to you." I said, "Well, let me read it for you." So I read her what I wrote in the Care Pages. And do you know, after that, she was the biggest follower of Care Pages, because the beautiful thing was I could hit a button and I could post it out, and it went to all 1,000 people or whatever. And then those 1,000 people didn't have to call. They could write a little note. And I told people, I said, I don't even, later, it didn't matter if you said thinking of you, or you said praying for you. It would go into this big conversation with me and her. She would go, "Oh, that's so sweet. I love them." And then we would start talking about memories and stuff. Such a beautiful thing. But you are right. I mean, there's only so much you can take when you go through it, and you have to put yourself at another level. And then, like you said, with the treatments and stuff, I know all about it. I used to get a spreadsheet every time. I mean, there was Tylenol that cost $12. And I'm not faulting the doctors or talking to whoever. Well, whatever they have to do. But the truth of it is you're way overcharged for it. But you have insurance, and And we had great insurance like you did, but still, even if you have great insurance, there's still that copay. And, it will take it out of you, and thanks for sharing your story. Your story was beautiful too.
Yes, thank you, Milo. That's so important. Like you say, and I think that was an awesome idea that you had to have that care page and where it could just go out to everyone. And then you didn't have to take all those calls, and, you already have enough on your heart that you want, like you said, you love everyone, you love the support, and you want to talk to them, but it becomes overwhelming at some point, and that was great. So we did the same. We had like a group chat, and it would go out to everyone, and keep people informed. But the support is so important, and it's just appreciated, and everyone handles things differently. But it's just oh, go ahead.
The beautiful thing of it is when you have something like that, now all of a sudden the calls coming in are not about what's happening to Peggy, what's this. The calls are coming in, and you're not going to believe what happened, today. And,
Right.
And it gets you back into a normal seat, of a community or whatever.
Exactly. That's so true, Milo. And that normalcy is very important, that you have that where your focus is not always on, cancer and on what's happening, but it's on like the whole world. You're focusing on everyone else as well too. So, and at this time, we're going to just go ahead and take some comments and questions and go from there. And we'll start with John Barillo. Unmute yourself.
Yes, thank you. I'm like listening to Milo. I'm a little bit, but I have a story also, and so I'll tell my story because also I want to try to connect it to something about on passive. But at any rate, I have my own experience with cancer, not myself personally, but a dear friend of mine. This has already been she diagnosed about I guess 12 years ago now, and so anyway, it's somebody that I met in college many years ago, and she latched on to me. She flirted with me at a party, and it didn't amount to anything. For some reason, I wasn't interested in. I didn't get picked up. Let's put it that way. And but this lady latched on to me, and we became the closest, dearest friends, like brother and sister, for right up until 2010, when she was, well, actually, we started in Ohio together in college, and we actually moved to New York around the same time. We're both actors and performers and all that. So we've known each other all this time in New York City until 2010, when she was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. And they gave her a diagnosis of, not much time to live. And and this lady was married to another very great, dear friend of mine, of course, and he had passed away a few years before from cancer. So she was basically alone. Now, she did have family, but she had no family here in the city that lived in this area. They were all in Ohio or other places around the country. So one day she got this diagnosis, and I guess she was actually walking home from the hospital or the doctor, and she called me on the phone, and she told me what she was just told, and she asked me if I could come and visit with her that evening, and I did. And then when I got to her apartment and visited with her, she asked me, since her husband had passed and she really had no close family, excuse me, I'm already having trouble. She asked me if I would be her caretaker while she went through this. And of course, I said yes. And so I spent she actually went way beyond. We were talking about diagnosis and whether you have, how much time you have and all that. She had some very severe, extended treatment of chemo and radiation, and unusual even for someone with stage 4 lung cancer. And so when I accepted that caregiver position, I took it very seriously, of course, and I actually went to all of her treatments with her. I went to most of her visits to the doctors, and as it went along, and I went to all of her chemo and radiation treatments the days that she had it, and I sat there with her, and spent the time with her. And actually, they make friends when they're doing this kind of thing. And there's people in other little cubicles and rooms, and they begin to talk to each other, and they make relationships. And of course, I was there as an additional comfort to her, and I did that all the way through. And time passed. She actually survived for 4 years, which was absolutely incredible. And at a certain period of time, of course, became obvious that she was going to not be that much longer. And so we had to have hospice. And I actually was the head of the hospice team. You know, it was doctors, nurses, and caregivers that were coming every day to her apartment because she chose to have her hospice at home. And so that put an additional responsibility for me. And I took that on as well and spent the time. And it was about, I think, 6 months or so. And that time was an experience that I'll never forget, of course. And in that time, went through a lot with her. And the reason I tell you this is that I'd like to say that this is somebody that had great insurance. Milo was just mentioning about insurance and how tough this is on people. Well, she had incredible insurance, and it did cover a lot. And there were co-pays and such of that. But here's the thing. She had long-term care insurance, which never kicked in. Now, this was something this is why I bring this up now. It's not so much to tell you my story. Well, it is, but I'm saying it's about the insurance. So as it went along in that hospice period of time, the last 6 months of her life, and I was actually moved into her apartment, spent every day there. So I spent a lot of time with this lady and all the caregivers that would come every day. And so anyway, this was going through her own insurance. And at some point, I thought to myself, this lady needs the long-term care to kick in. I mean, we don't know how long it's going to be, but this is getting to be where the insurance isn't going to cover the expenses, and long-term care should be taking care of all of this. Okay, now, Jackie this is my friend's name. Jackie was the kind of person that she never wanted to say that she was, not able to take care of herself or in this type of situation. So she got a call from I shouldn't say the name of the insurance company, but they called her one day because when we applied to get the long-term care put into effect, they contacted her and they asked her for questions. They interviewed her. And she, not being someone, I'm not saying she wasn't telling the truth, but she wasn't able to she was still sitting up and having visitors come to her apartment, whatever, but she could not take care of herself. All the caregivers were doing everything from bathing her to, I mean, you know what I'm saying, when you can't take care of your own needs. But she was still there, and she had this phone call and this interview. And of course, when they asked her things like, are you still able to care for yourself? Are you still bathing yourself? Are you able to cook for yourself? And she was answering, oh, yes, I'm taking care of myself. I have a team here, but I can cook for myself. I can take. And so anyway, she wasn't lying. She was fibbing, of course. I mean, she wasn't telling the truth. But that was my friend Jackie. Now, I wasn't present for this phone call. I would not have let that happen. So I wasn't present for this phone call. So, of course, the long-term care didn't kick in. Well, when I spoke with Jackie not long after that, I realized what had happened. I said, oh, my goodness, why did you do that? And of course, I contacted the insurance company. However, they didn't just say, oh, okay, sure, fine, because I let them know what place she was at in her condition. And the fact that we were in hospice and that there were caregivers, and there's no reason this didn't kick in. Well, you know what? They still didn't kick it in right away. They wanted to send their own nurse, and I couldn't even attend. Nobody in the family could attend. Had to be a private interview and examination so they could decide.
Right.
I was livid. Well, that went on, and just to make this shorter now, she of course passed away about 6 months to the day they gave her the 6 months in hospice. I actually was there at the moment that she passed, and it was difficult, but that's what happened. And then, of course, the insurance company contacted me the day after that. No, I'm sorry, not even the day after that. It was later in that day to tell me that the long-term care would be going into effect. even though we did not allow that doctor, that nurse to come. I didn't tell you that because I had a nurse that was in charge of this hospice, and he was livid when he heard that they were going to send somebody that he was not enough authority to say that this lady was in time for this long-term care. So we actually didn't have them come. And so then they let it kick in on their own. But it was the day that she passed away is when they called me to tell me it was going into effect. And of course, I said to them, thank you very much, but this person has passed away today. We don't
Wow,
need that.
John, that sounds like that was very dear to your heart, very important.
And so, just to finish though, my comment would be that this should be somehow on passive, I think would be something that would be not just to help find cures. I'm talking about financially, that somehow we could help through on passive with people who don't have enough insurance, or long-term care didn't kick in. Well, so maybe we could come up with something in on passive where there could be people who could get funded and be helped so that they could have the best of care right to the end. That's why I bring it all up and wanted to tell you the whole story. So that's all I have to say about it.
Yes, John, that's absolutely. On-Passive will be able to do that. Your story is so important because there's so many people out there that don't have the insurance. And, if they do have it, then things happen and it doesn't work the way that it should. So definitely we'll be able to do that through On-Passive. And sounds like that was your friend was, you were there for her. Thank God that she had you to support her. So thank you so much for sharing your story. And so many people will be able to hear this and then to know what to do. So in the event that something like that does happen. So thank you for sharing so much, John. We appreciate you. And so now we're gonna, Milo, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Thanks, John, for that. Yes, and that's what this is all about is, you'll be able to, if you know someone like this lady going through it, you tell her story and people will be able to fund it underneath you, or underneath that. And the more people that come in, the more people, they get commissions on. The more people they get commission, more money they make, and we can constantly, rather than maybe helping them out ourselves, we can buy them spots. And remember, that keeps giving and giving and giving and giving. And that's a beautiful thing of this. Back to you, Joyce.
Yes, thank you, Milo. That is so true. The On-Passive will do that. And that's the thing, it's like it's a gift that keeps giving and it just doesn't stop. So, like you say, you tell your story and people will be able to glean from that and they'll know how to move forward. So as we continue, we want everyone to get a chance to speak. So we're going to get everyone to 3 to 5 minutes and tell your story and share your story. And then we're going to move forward. So we have 5 to 6 hands raised. So we want to make sure that everyone gets a chance. And your stories are important to us. So we want to hear your heart. And so we're going to go ahead and Christopher Opria, go ahead and raise your hand. Unmute yourself. I'm sorry. You are still muted. Let me see. Here, let's see if I can. Can you unmute yourself, Christopher? Let's see, you're still muted there.
Okay, right. Okay, I got it.
Okay.
All right, sorry. I was fumbling around looking for the key to unmute myself. I salute all of you, brothers and sisters. My name is Christopher Opira. I am your friend. I'm speaking to you from Nairobi, Kenya. I have raised my hand so that I may share, a word with you as well in support of Brother Milo, because I and my family also had exactly the same story as that of Milo, and mine or ours started in 1996. At about the end of 1996, my wife was found to have leukemia. And so that brought a lot of confusion to us as a family. At that time, our children were still very, very young. God blessed us with 5 children, 4 daughters from number 1 to number 4, and a and a son, number 5. So they were still very, very young. And so this condition became so serious. And I could see actually that my wife was headed to her end. And at that time, I was also very, very busy. I was actually quite busy with the work of exports of horticultural produce from Kenya to many countries, you know, in the world. I exported a lot to England, to generally Europe, you know, most of the countries around the shores of the Mediterranean Sea, countries like Greece and all that. I remember I also exported to Canada, Vancouver, and I had not yet opened up South Africa. So I was quite busy that time. And so now here I was with 2 burdens in my hand, cancer in my wife and my work, you know. So then at some point I decided, and I said, I really can't carry these 2, you know, burdens at the same time. Something is bound to fall. So I decided to choose life, and I went slow in my work. And so I concentrated. I spent a lot of time, day and night, working to try and find where to take my wife, because we were informed that leukemia had no cure locally, and there were no facilities in Kenya that could handle that. If we needed to find a place, then we needed to go to, you know, to places like Europe, countries north of the Sahara, and elsewhere like India, you know. And then we were told about the cost, extremely expensive. In that time, 3 million Kenya shillings would work out to about, you know, about quite a lot of money, you know. So that scared us. It scared us. It scared me. We were lost, and I didn't have insurance, you know, for such a thing. So for a whole year, we lost time, and clearly she was going to die. I decided to leave my work to just focus, and so eventually I succeeded to get admission for her in Cape Town, in a hospital which is called the Groote Schuur Hospital, provincial hospital in Cape Town. And so now this hospital, through the main doctor, Professor Novitsky, N. Novitsky, he asked me to deposit money, a large sum, you know, 2.6 million shillings, which I didn't have. And so that if I deposited that money, then they would give us an admission date, so that I take her down there for bone marrow transplant, you know. And so I didn't have the money. Now I am someone who sometimes keep friends around, and I had good friends because I was in the Association of Roundtables in Eastern Africa. And so I shared this word with one Asian friend of mine, and he said, Christopher, we need to solve this problem. We are going to start doing some fundraising. And in Kenya here, there is a culture of people coming around to help you, you know, if there are any problems like this, you know. And so we discussed, and he showed me, he said, go ahead and organize for this. And so when I came away from him, I spoke with a friend who is also with us on Passive right now. And so the 2 of us agreed and said, yes, let us set up, you know, a fundraising committee, you know. So very quickly we did that, and we organized and we raised money one time. On the day that we went for the fundraising in a hotel here in Nairobi, within 45 minutes, my friends and all assembled 1 million Kenya shillings. But luckily for us, and at this point, I would like to add that I'm also a very much blessed person. I feel so blessed. I feel loved. You know, at that time, I was a friend of the leadership of this country. Actually, the late President Moi was our friend, was my
Yes.
friend, okay, and others also. So my wife and I said, why don't we write a letter to President Moi? So I drafted the letter, and I have a certain way of sometimes writing. And if I wrote any letter anywhere, my letters normally will get for me a response. Whether
Yes,
it
Christopher,
is
that is awesome. I'm so
yeah,
grateful that
whether it is a regret or it is a yes. When I write, I always get some kind of response. So we drafted this. I drafted this letter and then handed it over to one senior officer in the country, and he took it over to the president. The president then kept quiet. On the day of the fundraising, he sent 2 million shillings. So
wow, that's
that
awesome. Yes.
within that 1 hour, we had 3 million shillings in our hand.
So
I
were you
went
able to
straight away.
raise the whole amount that you needed?
Yes,
And
yes, for her
yes,
admission.
awesome.
Yes,
That is
straight away.
awesome, Christopher.
So
So
the next morning, I went to the bank and asked the bank to wire the money straight away to the hospital. And so the money was received instantly. Professor Novitsky wrote back to me and said, your wife will be admitted here.
yes.
Her admission date will be on such and such a day, about a month and a half after that. But
That's awesome,
That's
Christopher.
awesome,
Awesome,
Christopher.
man. Thanks for
Yes.
sharing your story. Loved it, but we need to move on to the next one. All righty.
Yes. Thank you so much, Christopher. We appreciate you and thanks for sharing. So we're going to go on to the next person, and we love to hear your story, but if you could just keep it to 3 to 5 minutes would be great. So everyone will get a chance to speak, and we'll go right ahead to Mark Olson. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Well, hello there, Milo. It's good to
Hey,
see you
Mark. Good to hear
Joy.
you, man.
again. Yeah, been there, done that, guys. I came down with leukemia in October of 21, and I came into Passive in September of 20, or both of 20. Sorry. I just wanted to come on and say hello. I'm currently, as you most of you know, I'm in the hospital in CCU right now for blood clots, and they think it's related to my leukemia. I when I was diagnosed, it was, I believe everything happens for a reason, and I'm real grateful that I was introduced 30 years ago to a higher power that I know is out looking for me or looking after me my whole life. But because of things I've gone through, I'm able to be here today. And hear other people, and that's what I've learned is here, just a second. There we are. I knew I'd figure that video thing out. Sorry, I don't look all the greatest, but like I say, I'm in a hospital room. But it's nice to hear that other people go through the same things that I go through. I'm a lot like what your wife was, Milo. when they told me that I had leukemia, I just took it as, okay, well, it's just another bump in the road, you know. Um, we get the opportunity, and that's what all of this is about. I get the opportunity to walk through it, and meet people and find out that I'm not alone, but yet on the same hand, share that there's nothing so bad, you know, that I need to fall into a depression or any of it, because I can get through this stuff with the help of a higher power, and the help of people, like yourself, you know, people that I had no clue what I was getting myself into when Kevin brought up on passive. But here we are today, you know, I was a truck driver up until this happened. And now I don't think I'll be driving a truck no more. But it's amazing how things happen. You know, I mean, this all came about. Now I'm passive is launching tomorrow, you know, and I'm real grateful for everyone that my higher powers put into my life through a new family. And that family's called Unpassive. So thank you for letting me get on here for a quick couple minutes. And I do love you all, like it or not. That's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you, Marks. Yes, we love you too, and we're all saying a prayer for you. So, you know, you hang in there, like you say, you believe in your higher power, and thank you for coming on, even in the hospital. So we just really appreciate you and your story, and we look forward to, you know, a blessing, and just keep being strong and hang in there. Yes, thank you so much, Mark. And now,
Awesome. Thanks for coming on, Mark. Appreciate you coming on, man. I'm praying for you. Hope you get better.
yes, thank you so
All
much,
right.
Mark. All right. So
Thanks.
now we're gonna move ahead, and we're only gonna have two more hands. So we're gonna do two more people after Sherry Green, I believe, would be the last one. So now we're gonna go ahead to Bruce. Go ahead, Bruce Gernstein, and unmute yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Bruce Gerstein. I am a proud brand ambassador, and I am your friend. Thank you, Mila, for telling your story, your love story with Peggy and you. And she sounds like a beautiful woman, and she was very smart because she said the one thing that will keep people alive longer is it says, let's not worry about when I'm going to die. Let's live today.
In the
And
moment.
I had a doctor many years ago I went to because I have AIDS since 1987. And he said, you know, I want to make one thing clear right now to all of you. We're all going to die. Now that we put that out of the way, let's think about how we are going to live. Because it's a mindset in how we live that makes the quality of our lives, no matter whether we're ill or not, is. And, you know, there's a thing that happens when you're sick. You start being scared when you're going to get more sick. And that creates the mind. And the mind is very powerful. And the mind will make you sick when you don't have to be sick. Joyce and her husband decided we're going to have faith and we're going to let what happens happen. And that's true too. Because, you know, I had AIDS dementia in 2000. And they told me I would die. They always told me I'd die because in 1987, HIV was a death sentence. But what I did have, because of where I came from, was an absolute faith that I have power greater than myself, that had more power than any disease. And if I had faith in that power, he would take me to where I need to be. I might not agree with it, I might die. Because nobody dies without God's permission. That's absolutely true the way I live. So I want to live. I want to live every day to the fullest. My mother died of cancer and she had breast cancer. And when she got it was in, I guess, in the 80s, and my father said, just take it out. And because she didn't want to do that because she wanted him to be happy. And he goes, I want you. I don't care about your breasts. I care about having you in my life. And she lived until she got uterine cancer in 1987 and passed away. It was hard because the one thing that's hard is not the people who suffer because all their suffering is gone, all their pain is gone. It's we who are left behind. We're the ones who feel what's missing in our lives at that point. And we miss the people in our lives. I miss my mother and my father. I realized one day, sooner or later, we all become orphans. So now I'm a member of the family of orphans in the world. But what I can do is be a service to everybody who has despair in their life and know that there's ways to get out of it. 2001, I had AIDS dementia. And AIDS dementia leaves you like a vegetable. And by the grace of God, I came out of it. People thought I was dead. And they asked me, how did you make it out of that? How did you survive that? I said, because my God has all the power. And my God is the one who healed me. My God is the one who keeps me alive every day. And I'm forever grateful of that. What we have here is Unpassive. And with Unpassive, almost everybody's been affected by cancer in the world. And everybody has terrible finances because in America, you either get cut, you get burned, or you get poisoned. And then they say that they want to give you a time limit. And I always tell people have a time limit. I say, ask them, next time you see your doctor, ask your doctor if he's God. Nobody has the time but God.
That's right, Bruce.
Yeah, I know. But this is a wonderful format because Unpassive and Oh Bless will help a lot of people, not just communities, not just water, but people who are in need of finances because the nut is gone. So God bless Unpassive, God bless Ash, God bless you, Joyce, and God bless you, Milo, and God bless you all. And I love you all. And there's nothing you can do about that.
Oh, we love you too, Bruce. Thank you so much for sharing your story. That was wonderful. Yes, Unpassive is going to bless so many people, and we're just so glad that you're here and you're part of Unpassive. And I know we're going to continue. Amy had her hand up and she had trouble getting it up. So we're going to call Amy, my dear friend from Michigan, and then we'll continue. Amy, unmute yourself.
Thank you so much, Joyce. I appreciate that. Where do I start? My very first son was born in 1992. When he was 10 days old, he turned blue and we didn't know why. And so he went into the intensive care unit and they said, well, he has some abnormal cells. We don't know what that is. So you'll need to come to the oncologist every 6 months until he develops cancer. I thought, well, that was kind of curious. So it just became routine for us as a young married couple with raising little kids. And here's this little infant. So when he was 2, he was diagnosed with myelodysplastic syndrome, which is a very rare form of cancer. And he also had little sisters coming along. We, young married couple, we continue to have children. And so he struggled, and I was in the hospital with him every step of the way. And what we found out with his Down syndrome and his cancer, it was a very rare form of cancer. And because he had Down syndrome, it was one in a lifetime. There was never going to be another person with that kind of cancer. So everything was experimental. They treated him with chemo, and he went into remission, and we started to look into having a bone marrow transplant. But as it turns out, he his cancer had returned, and it was too late for a bone marrow transplant. And that's a whole nother story. But so he came out of remission in January, and he passed away in June of 1996. So when I went home, you know, from the hospital without him, now I have all these bills laying around, and we ended up filing bankruptcy because we couldn't afford all those bills, because nothing was covered by the insurance, because it was all experimental. And had we not given him the treatment, we would have been remiss in negligent as parents. But we didn't withhold treatment from him, but there it was, all those bills piled up. Now our son is gone, and now we have all that. So I'm looking forward to helping families with children that are going through similar situations. And as it turns out, I ended up getting divorced from that man. After having 6 children with him, it all just fell apart. But a lot of it was the stress of the money, and you know, it all goes hand in hand. The only way I can say we made it through is our faith, and my faith helped me survive. And so that's the only way I can speak to you, and I'm shocked I'm not crying. But anyway, thanks for letting me share and calling on me, and I look forward to helping others as you are, Milo and Joyce and everyone here. And thank you so much for letting me share. Have a good day.
Thank you so much, Amy. I'm so sorry for your loss. And, you know, I know that those words don't, sometimes they just don't do justice, but, you know, I'm so sorry for your loss and for what you've gone through. It's like, you know, we are on this panel, we're talking about lives and cancer and how it's affected so many people. We never know what other people are going through, but I really appreciate this, Milo, because it gives us an opportunity and a chance to hear from everyone and to hear their stories. And you know, we may not have gone through the same thing, but we're able to have empathy and to love and compassion for each other and just to hold each other up. So this is a great platform, and I'm really appreciative of it and for everyone that's speaking. So Amy, thank you for sharing. And that's one thing, is like when we share our stories, there's someone out there that needs to hear our story. So it's so important that we share, and it's not only for that person, but it's for us as well too. So we're going to move right ahead, and we're going to go over to Alan.
Wait.
Let me stop that. Oh, I'm sorry, Milo. Go ahead.
Amy, thank you so much for sharing your story. You've shared it with me before, but what a touching story. And this is exactly what this is all about, is helping people like that. You've been through it. I've been through it. All of us that's been through it. You know, we can get behind this. We can support it. And like I said, it's a matter of buying a position underneath this cancer spot when we set it up, and it will help everyone that's involved with it. You know, it doesn't matter what you went through, it will be able to help you. So thanks so much for sharing your story. I love your story. I mean, I love it, hearing it, and this is exactly why I want to help people like this. There's so many out there that are similar or gone through, like John was saying, and Christopher, and some of the different ones that have talked. Just beautiful stories. Back to you, Joyce.
Thank you so much, Milo. Yes, that is so important. And we're going to go right over to Alan. Unmute yourself.
Hi, everybody. Hi. My wife died from cancer about 10.5 years ago. But she was ill for a long time. But when she went to the doctor, she went to the house doctor, and she complained of a pain in the back and a cough that wouldn't go away. And after about 6 months, she couldn't do anything more for her. She was rubbing back against the door frame for the pain. Eventually, she went to her physician who she'd been going to for 15 years, and he couldn't find anything. And she asked for the house doctor for an X-ray. The first one came out clear. And about 3 weeks later, she went for a second one, and they found that she had fluid on the lung. She went to the physician with this, and he said, no, it's a new radiologist that is very overzealous, and it's nothing. So eventually she had a CAT scan, and they found that she had fluid on the lung, and that's when he woke up. But that was already too late. She was already stage 4 cancer. She had lung cancer. And so she suffered for about a year. Fortunately, the medical insurance covered everything, but the chemo And the radiation, there must be something better than the chemo. There's got to be something better than that chemo. It's absolute poison. And that's what I did quite a bit of research on alternative methods for chemo, and I came with quite a few. I'm talking about 10, 11 years ago. But the doctors wouldn't even consider them because it wasn't prescribed by the powers that be. That's what I'm going to try and put my focus on, is looking for different cures other than chemo. There are other things out there that work. I don't want to go into a long story, but the physician, one day she phoned up to the physician to say she had terrible pain in her back, and he said, "I'm sure it's nothing. Go for physio." This is how the doctors treat patients. This is my story. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Alan, for sharing. We appreciate you. It's important to get your story out there. We're going to go ahead and move right ahead to Sherry Green. Thank you. Unmute yourself.
Hey, hi, thanks, Joyce. Appreciate it. Yeah, my name's Sherry Green, and I am proud and grateful brand ambassador for OnPassive. Milo, you and I have spoken about your wife, so I didn't hear your story at the beginning, and I know it's a beautiful love story. So thanks for your sharing and everybody else. I had a sister who was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in 2014, and at the time we were estranged. Don't need to go into that story, but I was guided to reach out to her in September of 2014 after not talking for a few years. And she lived 6 hours away from me, and I was passing through, and I was like, I have to stop and I have to call her. And so we reconnected, and about a month later, she was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And so we kind of got right back to where we were as sisters, and we were only 15 months apart. And so I started to come down to spend time with her when she would go for chemo, and she was given, a few months to live, and she lived for 18 months. And she lived for 18 months because of her belief that she thought she was going to be healed, and her state of mind was that she was cancer-free. And so we spent a lot of time just kind of hanging out and doing what we could, having some fun. And then she took a turn and she got very sick, and about 16 months in, she went into hospice. And I was in a position at that time to put my business on hold for a bit, and I moved into hospice with her. And I just want to put a little spin on this. For me, obviously we all believe in the power of prayer, and my sister was not a believer in prayer, and she was very fearful of dying. And so we would spend a lot of time talking about, we don't really know what happens when we die. And so we would make up stories about, the possibilities of when she would leave. And so I actually do some healing work myself. And so I would sit with her, and I would do my healing. And what I found was she became, I'm not going to say comfortable with the fact that she was dying, but there was more acceptance there. And so one of the things for me with OnPassive is that I know that, we're all going to be in a position to do what it is we're passionate about. And so when I think about being able to sit with people that are in the death and dying stages of life, and to be able to share my heart and my love and the healing that and when I say healing, I'm not suggesting that I cure or anything like that. For me, it's just a form of prayer and love that I provide. And so I know that with OnPassive, I'll be able to do that and go to the local hospice or wherever and sit with people that just need a friend, just need to know that that they're loved. And you know, my sister, when she went into hospice and I moved in at that stage, she was, you know, her mental capacity was not that great. And so when she moved in, she said to me, like, where are we? And I just started this journey with her, and I said, we've moved back in together. This is our bed, this is our room. And I decorated it and put pictures up of our family and everything. And I just know that at the end of her journey, that she was at peace. And for me, that's all that mattered, was that she was at peace. And so, yeah, Impassive is going to give us the ability to have total time freedom to go do, I see your hands there, Milo, okay? To do the things that we're here to do. And so thank you so much for allowing me to share. I mean, we can go on for hours about our stories because they're long journeys a lot of times, but you know, keep sharing your heart, everybody, and sending love and prayers to everybody that is going through cancer right now, who has lost somebody through cancer, and just know that we're one big beautiful family that's going to make a difference. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sherry, for sharing your story. Thank you. We appreciate you, and thank you for being here. And we're going to turn it over to Milo. He's going to jump in there and share some words with us. Milo.
Sherry, that was beautiful. That was beautiful. Two key points that I took out of there is you reconnected with her. That was beautiful. That is a beautiful thing. The second thing is, I remember one of my friends, he was actually my minister friend, and he had come up to visit Peggy when she was in the hospital early on in 2008, him and his wife. In 2010, his wife got cancer, and she passed very quickly before Peggy did. And I remember he took it so hard, and because he was of the faith that, you know, I'm going to get healed. Don't worry about it, Janice. You're going to get healed. You're going to get healed. Well, God doesn't always heal people. You know, that's not, that's not the key. We're all going to die sometimes or another, you know, and we have to know that. He told me one thing that was probably one of the best things I ever heard. He said, brother, he said, if I can give you one piece of advice, he said, because I've already went through it. If she wants to talk about death, you let her talk about it. He said, you go that journey with her. He said, don't do like I did and say, hey, it's not going to happen, because it might happen. Now, I will tell you, during my journey with Peggy wanted to talk about death, and she would do it all the time. And sometimes she would laugh about it. I mean, I remember one time she was sitting at the table. She said, hey, come here. And her family was all around. And I went over there. I was rushing out the door to go to an appointment. And she says, feel right here. And she rubbed her side. And so I felt her side, and it was just hard as a rock. And I said, Peggy, what's going on? She goes, I don't know. I think rigor mortis might be sitting in. And she just laughed like crazy, you know, and I'm like, oh. Another thing she did is we had a party, coming home party for her, and she had 60 people there. It was mostly all family members. This was 2 weeks prior to her having her dad's birthday party. 60 people was at this one. My niece come in to me, and she's crying, and she says, Uncle Marlon, she goes, I can't take it. I said, why? What happened? She says, I walked through the door, and Peggy gives me a big hug. And she says, welcome to my wake. I'm glad you can be here when I'm alive. I go, oh, you know, what do you say to stuff like that? Peggy went through, and she put her whole, she didn't call it a funeral. She said a homegoing. I'm having a homegoing service. I remember her looking me in the eye one day, and she says, hey, do you think it'd be all right if I sang at my funeral or my homegoing? I said, yeah, I guess so. Why not? And she said, okay. So we made up a video before she died, and she sang a song called Save a Little Spot in Heaven. Beautiful song. And, you know, I know when the people read the thing and it said Peggy Davis is going to be singing, they blew their minds, you know. And what I did was I brought a video of that video on the screen, and she spun in, and she comes out and she starts singing. It was a beautiful thing, you know, but if you don't let them talk about it, how would you know what they want, how it's going? And it wasn't, I guess to her, death wasn't the end. It was the beginning. It was like she was graduating to something better, and so that part was just cool. I'm glad you brought that up. Sorry to go on, but back to you, Joyce.
Milo, that was so important, and thank you, Sherry, again. Jumping in there and just when you're talking, it just sparks something and it brings back memories and so many things that are just so important that we don't remember sometimes. And when someone says something, it sparks something and it brings it to our mind. So thank you both so much. And now
Joyce?
we're going to make this our last person, which is Tony Monk, and we're going to go with him. And Tony, would you unmute yourself, please? Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Joyce. I appreciate it. First of all, my condolences to everyone who's lost loved ones to cancer. It's not a pretty thing to go through. I've heard your story many times, Milo. It's a very heart-wrenching story. John, yours also touched my heart as well. Many of you did. It's just it's something that's not easy to even talk about. I really do believe there's a divine plan behind the whole thing. And sometimes this divine plan seems cruel, but it's not up to us to judge, is it? Obviously, there's something bigger going on behind the scenes that we don't know about, but it's still hard when it happens to us on a personal level. When you're a good person, you have compassion and love for what other people are going through when they lose people that they love. But when it becomes a personal thing, the emotions are completely different. It's a lot more raw and so on. I'm not going to go into a lot of details with my friend. I've had a lot of people who've passed away with cancer, but my friend was my best friend for over 30 years. And he had this tumor in his gut when he was 20. And he had it for over 30 years and it wasn't bothering him. His partner, she told him to go and get it checked out. And once he went to get it checked out, they wanted to cut him open. Once they cut him open, that was the end of it. It was about 2 years into chemotherapy, off and on. And it went into remission once, and then it came back even stronger. It spread all over the place. And when they told him that he was going to die within the 6-month period, he didn't believe it because he was very healthy that day. I took him to the cancer ward that day, and he says, I don't believe him. I feel great. I don't understand what the hell they're talking about. And it was 8 months after that he just deteriorated. But he went from a healthy looking person to someone who was almost anorexic, with tumors hanging out of his head, and he looked like Frankenstein at the end. It was a horrible thing to see someone that you care about, going from the person that you remember him being to a deteriorating state that I saw towards the end. I also worked in a hospice for a while, Milo, so I dealt with a lot of cancer patients that have died on a consistent basis. But at that point, for me, it just became a job. The hard part was to let parents, or not just parents, but people, their loved ones, I had to relay the message that their loved ones have just passed on. And it was heart-wrenching to tell them because of the fact that, they would just break down and sometimes some of them would just faint right in front of you. It was a horrible thing to go through. It was very stressful. I had to leave the situation and go work somewhere else, something less stressful. But I've dealt with that. But the thing is, like I said before, when it becomes personal, when it gets to a personal level, it's a complete different emotion. God forbid, I wouldn't even want my worst enemy to go through something that my friend went through. It was a horrible state. I do believe, on a positive note, because of the way On Passive is, we are a company who believes in humanitarian. We are a humanitarian company. We try to alleviate suffering or even eradicate it if we can. And I do believe that OnPassive is going to have the technology and the innovative technology moving forward here that's going to alleviate cancer, maybe not cure it completely, but alleviate it on a big scale moving forward because of the technology we have, because of the tech pros we have, and everything we have here at OnPassive to do that. My heart goes out to every one of you. Thank you so much for sharing your beautiful stories. It's very heart-wrenching. It touches me on a personal level, and I really do appreciate that. Thank you so much, Milo, for letting me speak. Thank you, Lynn, and thank you, Joyce, for co-hosting this. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Tony, for being here. Thank you for sharing your story. As it said, you know, condolences to everyone, you know, that's gone through and that's going through. Our hearts are with you, and we're always praying for you. So thank you for sharing, and thank you for being on today. We just really appreciate you. And as Tony said, that and everyone has said it, that with OnPassive, we'll be able to bless so many lives. We'll be able to change so many things. So we're just really looking forward to OBlessed and OnPassive coming forward. And I love Milo's his concept, his way of doing things is that he's going to place positions under all these different cancer programs that he has out there, and we'll be able to do that as well, to be able to help and to bless so many. So again, thank you so much for being here. Milo, I would like to turn it back over to you to see if you have words. We're right at the almost 3:40 mark, and you know, we're gonna go ahead and let you speak and go forth, and thank you everyone again.
Sounds
Blessings
good.
to you all.
Thank you, Joyce. Let me first send it back to John. John, take a minute and say something to us.
Sure. Yeah, I'm still kind of affected by all this today. I hadn't even I was going to say much today because, you know, as I told you, I wasn't feeling too well myself, but I just had to, with what we were going to be talking about today and my own experiences in that way, I had to come on and say something. But I would just like to, you know, let's just for a moment, though, realize that on a different note, that we are going towards something very exciting and positive for all of us. That may even be helpful in some of these situations, as we've said before. We hope it is, and I think it will be, whether it be through research or whether it be through programs through OBlessed that are going to help people that are just not insured or have funds. Like I said, my friend had a great insurance, but it got to the point that even what kind of insurance you have, when we had a team of workers coming in every day for the hospice, there were people, you know, 4 people a day, they were on shift, and that got to be, we had to pay privately out of some of that. The insurance didn't cover that. So the long term would have been important. So I hope OnPassive can make it easier for folks that need something like this, so that the funds aren't so terrible to try to deal with. Other than that, the positive side is this thing is launching, folks, and we're anxious to see what's going on tomorrow. And that's all I got to say about that. Life does go on, and even though we're touched by all this, we got to be happy about where we are and move on forward.
Thank you, John. Thank you, John. It's good stuff. That's real good stuff. Now, Miss Lynn Nakamura, the Energizer Bunny, come on down and talk to us, girl.
Yeah, thank you. It was a great show. I love the sharing. I think that OnPassive and OBlessed are the hope and bright light of the world, and it's coming soon. And I really think that a lot of these issues, things like lack of funding for research or policy changes that are so needed for in terms of insurance and et cetera, all of those things, I think OnPassive and the founders, or I should say brand ambassadors, who feel that this is an issue or a platform for them, it's going to be a priority cause for some of the brand ambassadors of OnPassive, and they'll have the means and the time, right? Because we're all going to have this time freedom, Milo. Time freedom means financial freedom and time freedom. We will be able to focus on causes such as this one, very, very worthwhile causes. So I'm very hopeful about the future. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Lynn. That is very, very much true. What's going to happen, you know, and when we get together as a group and this movement gets together and we put all the cords around, man, all of a sudden we get this rope that we just can't break, man. And it will help everybody. That is the beauty of Own Passive. The more you give out, the more you get back in to be able to give out again. And I like to always remind people, don't let the apples rot in your basket, man. Get them out, get them out. There's more coming. Just always get them out. Thank you, Lynn, for always being here for us and always helping out. Couldn't do it without you. And hey, how about our host today, Joyce Hicks? Did she do a good job? I mean, that girl just rocked it. Joyce, I'm going to turn it back over to you in a few minutes. Let me say something here. I'll give it to you to close down. But I just want to thank all of you for coming, man. It was a beautiful show. And Lynn nailed it when she said, you know, with projects like this, whatever projects we got, there's many of them. Okay, it doesn't stop with cancer, but that's just one of the projects, you know, and that's a project that to me is I'm passionate about because of what I went through with it. The stories I heard today, I know some of you are passionate about it. You know, you want to help people. This is going to give you that opportunity to do it. And if you know someone that, you know, and cancer is not just the cancer that affects you right now, or even if someone went through that cancer, there's homes that were destroyed because of cancer. You know, there's people that lives were just in shambles because of cancer. How about bringing them in, lifting them up? I always like that little thing where it says, you know, I'm up on another step or something and I'm reaching behind and I'm grabbing someone to pull them up. That's what I want to do. I want to help all humanity. You know, to me, that is so important with this company. You know, this movement, you know, we never had the vehicle before where we could do this. Now we have a vehicle where we can go any place we want to, whatever we want to do, we can do it because we now have those apples. And it doesn't matter what you want, you know, take care of yourself first. But remember, when you get it all taken care of, don't forget those others that might be struggling, man. Be able to help them out, bring them in, whether you bring them in as a under a position under cancer, or you come in as a thing and then you bring them in. Either way, it works, man, because once you put a position in, it just gives you more apples. And once you get more apples, you can bring in whoever you want to. Or even if you just put yourself in again, you know, multiple times, that's okay, because remember, every position is helping everyone in the group get more, you know, as far as commissions and stuff like that. This is a beautiful thing, man. I just, I'm so overwhelmed. And John talking about, hey, tomorrow, you know, if you look at your back office or your ecosystem or whatever you want to call it, it's got a countdown there. It's got a calendar on there. And it's saying, you know, that like at 9:30 tomorrow night, man, it's gonna be the big reveal. I don't know what they're revealing, but you know, none of us do. But I'm not gonna miss it. I guarantee you that. You know, and I'm sure there'll be advertising going on at the, you know, all of the everything that the game and stuff that's going on. There will be stuff that goes on. You know, so it's a beautiful thing. I'll tell you what. If you are in on passive, you should thank someone, whoever you want to thank for being in it. But whoever brought you in, I would go back to him and say, man, thank you so much, man, because this is the biggest thing that's ever happened to you. The biggest thing that will ever happen to you, I believe. You know, I don't think it gets any bigger than this. You know, so if you are a founder, which most of you here are, and it's good to see all of you, man. I see the same people coming to the show over and over, and I can't tell you how much I'm appreciative of that, and how my heart just jumps, and it makes me happy to know that you're coming in and that you're listening, and that, you know, maybe you know, we can work together on this, and this can become such a movement that just can't be stopped. And I believe, like Tony said also, I believe Own Passive is going to be the thing. I believe personally, there's probably a cure out there for cancer, okay? But it's never been able to be brought forth. I believe that, you know, Own Passive is going to change some of that corruption. You know, I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't know, you know, I don't want to get into all that, but just know that I think that we're on a lot smoother road. There's going to be a lot of things that happen to us now that won't really affect us down the road as much, you know. And I just want us all to be happy, man. Be happy with what we've got, because I'm telling you, there's no one more blessed than you and me. And if you have never read the Daily Inspiration or never listened to that, Kurt always puts that in there. He said, there's no one more blessed than you and me. And then he talks about, you know, I talk about how Own Passive is going to change the world, you know, and it is going to change the world, starting with Ash Mafaro, and he changed someone's world, and they changed someone's world, and we all start changing worlds. And all of a sudden, this thing is a big movement, you know. And when you really think about it, you know, you think about, and I like to say this a lot of times on the show, is the orange. You know, what about the orange? How many oranges can an orange create? It's infinite. No one knows, because when you cut that orange open, and I'm talking about ones with seeds, you know, you cut that orange open and all of a sudden you plant a seed, and that seed makes a tree, and that tree makes multiple oranges. So you might have 24 seeds. Well, that's not 24 oranges. That means you got 24 trees that are now producing oranges. What happens if you cut those oranges apart? You see how it multiplies? This is the concept of Own Passive. Once you get it, man, it's just incredible. And I know as a child growing up, my dad was a Pentecostal preacher, and he used to always, we would sing this song called "There's Joy in Giving," and I found it to be true, that the more you give to Jesus, the more he's going to give back to you. So give until you just can't give anymore, more than you can afford, and you'll find your cup will overflow, because you can't outgive the Lord. And you know, this is so true. I take this into Own Passive and I say, this is a beautiful concept, because the more you give out, the more comes back in. The more you give out, the more it comes back in. And when you do that over and over, and you don't let the apples rot in your basket, because remember, with our wallets, you don't need to save for a rainy day. We don't need rainy day funds in Own Passive, because every day it rains into our wallet, you know, and every day it's going to come into there. And it's a beautiful concept. When this thing starts rolling, I can't tell you how excited I am. I haven't walked on the ground for the last week, I don't think. You know, it's like I'm just walking on the clouds or whatever, waiting for this with anticipation of what's going to happen tomorrow. And then, you know, as we start launching this thing, and when we get to the paid products, and can you imagine when we have O Connect, we have O Mail, we have O Net that we can work with? How beautiful is that? How much is that going to make our life change? What's it going to do for us? It's incredible. So I've said enough. I would like to turn it over to the host, Miss Joyce. Take it away, girl. Talk to us.
Thank you, Milo. Yes. Oh, wow. Awesome. That was wonderful. Your words are just so inspiring, and you are just an inspiration to everyone. We love you. We appreciate you for everything that you do. And I love your saying it's a beautiful thing. And it is, it's a beautiful thing. You know, as everyone has spoken, thank you for sharing so much. Your stories need to be heard. And I know there's so many more on here that didn't share their stories, and, you know, but just continue to share your stories, continue to move forward, continue to just believe and have your faith, and know that, as Tony said, you know, Own Passive will be a vehicle. Milo said this as well. It may not cure everything, but as Milo said, I do believe that there's a cure out there. And with Own Passive and everything that Oh Bless will be doing, we'll be able to get closer to that, and we'll be able to find cures to things. And John, like you said, you know, it's just so much out there and so many things going on. And we've all been touched by cancer, and it not only touches us, but it's a ripple effect. It touches so many families and lives and communities. communities. And, you know, I have other family members that have, that I've lost to cancer and leukemia as well. My brother, he was diagnosed, but he's a survivor as well. He had a 50% chance, but he said, I'll take that 50% in my faith and in God. And so that's what he did, you know, nephews and so many people, and another brother that died from cancer. But like Milo said, you know, I love that your love story and what you said, your wife said to you was just so beautiful. It's like, let's live in this moment. Let's not think about, you know, what could happen in the future, but let's live. And that's what I would like to say to everyone. Live in this moment. Take this time and to love, to live, to laugh like it's your last chance, and to love those people that are in your life and embrace them and celebrate them. But as we celebrate each other, that just kind of leads into passive. Passive is tomorrow is going to be a great thing, and we're going to celebrate. We're going to, you know, whatever is coming, whatever the announcement is, we're excited about it. And so we're in a great place that we'll be able to bless the world and bless so many people, and that's a ripple effect, and we'll continue to do that. So it, like you said, it's a gift that never stops giving, it keeps giving. And so again, thank you for having me, Milo. I really appreciate it. I'm humbled to be here, and you know, just be with everyone. And when you're on the webinars, it just brings so much energy, so much love, so much connection. Like Ash just said, and everyone has said, this is a movement. This is a movement. And we're here with brothers and sisters and friends, and, you know, just love you all. I appreciate you all. Thank you guys for sharing, for showing up. We always show up for Milo. So that's like, we're going to show up for Milo. We're going to show up for him and support him. So thank you again, Milo. I'm going to turn it back over to you. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, John. Thank you, awesome brand ambassadors, for being here and for loving each other, supporting each other, and holding each other up. And we're praying for everyone that's going through right now, and for those, you know, that are, you know, in the hospital, that have loved ones that are not feeling well. So we're praying for you. We're holding you up, and let's hold each other up. Let's grab hands, stay connected, and we will make this thing happen, and it will be great. So thank you guys so much. Love you all.
Thank you, Joyce. Thank you, Joyce, for being the host. You did an awesome job. I mean, you did an awesome job. Let's all put our hands together for Joyce one more time. It was a great show, and you did a wonderful job. Hey, don't forget on Passive Daily Inspiration. You can get that. I'm gonna put my own plug in here. otrim.ai/OnPassiveMilo. If you have not subscribed, please, I need help. I got 180 people, and Kurt's got 202, and I need to get some more people. But I'm gonna tell you, if you get on the OnPassive Daily Inspiration, it's gonna be a wonderful thing down the road, because every day he tells how many people's in. And so you'll be able to follow along with how many come in the day before or whatever. It will tell you that. So it's a wonderful thing. Plus, it's got some cool inspirational stuff in it that it's just good to hear that in the morning. I see he's texting me right now. He's probably saying, why'd you have to say that? But I did. I said, I said it. But anyway, I love every one of you. Until next week, good night from Nashville. You can all unmute.
Yeah. Good night.
Good night
From South Haven, Michigan.
Michigan.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much.
Good night from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Good night, everybody.
Michigan.
Good night, good night, good night, good night, good night, good night. Good night, good night,
I got that.
good night, good night, good night, good night, everyone.
Love you all.
Thank you, Marlon.
Thank you, guys.
Roy.
Bye.
You, Lynn.
I see you, Uncle Curtis.
Thank you.
Good night, Uncle Milo. Good night.
Share the love.
Chia sẻ tình yêu.
شارك الحب.
Teile die Liebe. Tayo, wakachao.
Compartamos amor.
Hozd meg a szeretetet mindenkivel.
brighter light we're loving, on passive will bring.
Anything you need now is in one place. Fullness waiting to be yours, nothing less than grace. Close your eyes, spread your wings, make your dreams come true. Share the joy, share the love, total freedom comes to you. Close your eyes, spread your wings, make your dreams come true. You are not alone, unpassive is your home. If you believe in goodness, here it goes from above. Unpassive is here for you, with great and selfless love. Join to make a paradise on earth with us together, and take care of each other forever and forever. Close your eyes, spread your wings, make your dreams come true. Share the joy, share the love, total freedom comes to you. Close your eyes, spread your wings, make your dreams come true. Dreams come true. You are not alone, unpassive is your home. Only love can make you hear. Only love brings happy tear. Only love can make you see that we are safe. You and me, you and me, you and me. Close your eyes, spread your wings, make your dreams come true. Share the love and only love. Unpassive is your home. Unpassive is your home. Unpassive is your home. Share the love.
Passive is here to stay on passive. There's just no better way. Listen to the Julie and the Milo show, cause then you can be the very first to know. On passive is here to stay.